Lights low, city glow, true tenor, yeah. Conversations heavy, but we handle with care. From love to the culture, the power and pain.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. My name is James Jimmy Hills, and I am the host of Java with Jimmy, aka Java After Dark. We are here this evening to discuss two major races coming up. The primary is taking place in September. One thing that I will add for the district attorney and the state senator, September is it. So we'll make it into that in a few minutes later. But I have a guest tonight that is going to join us in just a couple of seconds. But the 2026 Suffolk County District Attorney's race brings together candidates with very different electoral politics and histories. Rachel Rawlins won the five-way primary in 2018. Kevin Hayden won a polarized two-candidate primary in 2022. Linda Champion received 9% of the vote in 2018, but is now outraising Rachel Rawlins. With history mattering, or which history rather matters in 2026? Is it Rachel's reform? Is it Hayden's more recent winning coalition? Or is it Champion's improving campaign organization? And I'll add also engagement of law enforcement. And so I'm going to bring my political analyst in here in the Java Cafe. He is a strategist, operative, former state representative in his own right, no stranger to the Java Cafe. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor because I'm telling you this is going to be a very informative conversation. We will talk about the specifics of the DA's race and the state Senate race, but we're going to get into what we should do as voters, and if we're backing a candidate, how do we ensure that we have their back, and what the candidate's responsibility is to rally us. So without further ado, please make sure you like and subscribe. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Java Cafe political analyst, Brother Carlos Henriquez. And you have not been with us for a while, huh?
It's been a little bit, been some time.
Okay.
Make some moves here and there. Thank you for having me. I'm going to start right off by a disclaimer. I'm going to try not to talk about what anybody should do. I'm going to try not to use that word.
Okay.
The whole show. I'm going to try to describe what people could do and maybe would do. But I don't want to project on what anybody should do because everybody has a different opinion on who should do what. And I think there's a time and place for that in politics, but during a campaign, it's a whole different monster.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And if I don't remember if I said should, because I'm the same way. When you say should, sometimes that implies that the person or the thing is absolutely wrong. If the person doesn't do, what you're implying. So let's get into it. Carlos, Hayden is the incumbent right now. How much should we read into Kevin Hayden's 22 victory? These are some of the things folks are going to talk about. How much we should read into his victory. Was that vote a real Hayden coalition, or was there some significant part of it driven by opposition to Rachel Rawlins? Also, for Rachel Rawlins, she won a five-way race in 2018, 8 years later. How much of that coalition still exists? And the fact that she has built it against four opponents, does it make her 2018 performance especially relevant to another four-way contest? And finally, Linda Champion, he received about 9% of the vote in 2018. What has changed politically for her organizationally and in her support base, since that could make 2026 a fundamental different race for her. And so, Carlos, let's get into it. Let's maybe start with, we're going to keep these questions in mind, but maybe let's start with Rachel Rollins, just some numbers and observations.
Yeah, I think Rachel is a good baseline. I think until 2018, until Rachel Rollins kind of burst upon the scene at the same time that reform around the DA's office around the country was a big thing. A lot of that actually made people pay more attention to the difference the DA would make, because that was the hashtag and kind of the nonpartisan campaign that made people pay more attention to it. And Rachel was definitely a trailblazer then. She had her own non-prosecute list, which people have mixed feelings about depending on where you land on that. So there were some things that she was shaking up and bringing to a DA seat in a very conservative base of Suffolk County, Massachusetts, that people, I think people have to consider whether that still stands and whether she can still garner that same kind of support and energy before, or whether that's something that has faded in the last 8 years.
Absolutely. And then in Kevin's case, I'll go a little bit deeper. He won the 2-candidate primary. I like the point or the question of, was that sort of in opposition to Rachel Rollins' progressive approach to the office? And he received about 41,500 votes. And that was 6,000 more than Rachel received in 2018. And I think that is also reflected when we get into it, the significant fundraising that he had then, and we'll get into what it looks like now. He defeated Ricardo Arroyo by 6,060 votes, and he spent about $6.42 on each vote. I want to make a note. We just noticed in looking at the numbers that Rachel Rollins spent $6.17 on the vote. I just noticed that 617. And then also he entered the election he's entering now the election as an incumbent DA. So we went over Rachel, we went over Kevin.
And just the footnote, we'll come back to it, I'm sure, at some point, but the money, the dollar spent per vote is going to matter when we talk about fundraising and where those funds come from. It actually costs money to get people to vote for you. It is not even though the activity is free for the voter, getting the voter excited enough to show up that day and cast a ballot for that candidate actually costs money in the forms of mail, signs, volunteers, equipment, subscriptions, all kinds of things. So I just wanted to stick that footnote in there.
Absolutely. And it is an indicator, Carlos, of an ability to rally people, not just to come out on election day, go to standouts, go to debates and support, but will they put their money behind you? That can be an indicator of a candidate. So let's look at Linda. What are some of the facts and thoughts with Linda?
So Linda had she was in that 2018 race. She finished 5th out of the candidates. She had, I think, 9%, which was Rachel beat her. I had 7 times as many votes. So if she had 5,000 votes, Rachel had 35,000 votes. So obviously it's a different time, but that's a pretty large gap to climb. The winner of this race is going to need 35% of, you could, there's a couple of different numbers we'll throw out, but I'll hold off for now. So she's raising about the same amount of money. I think she's raised $25,000 more in this time around than she did before. This time around, she's responded to, at least publicly, the call by the Boston Patrolmen's Police Association, their union, to be the candidate that they wanted to oppose the incumbent DA Kevin Hayden. So I think that could be tied to some of her increase in money. And I think the question will be whether she can turn that increase in money into spending dollars to votes. Does that help you organize? Does that help you mail voters and engage voters and get them to write your name on September 1st?
Absolutely. We're going to do a deeper dive into their fundraising and messaging, but I just wanted, that's one of the bigger races, Carlos, that is going on this election. Let's just name, because someone commented the other day, there's a gubernatorial race as well that's going on, but we're focusing on these two. Before we get deeper into the district attorney race, we just wanted to put a little teaser out there around our main topic tonight. Let's back a little bit into the state senatorial for the 1st Suffolk district. We have an incumbent by the name of Nicholas P. Collins. and also Latoya Gale.
So and everything.
But
Then you pulled out his middle initial and everything. Okay.
Oh, we did. Look, we've been on OCPF. So what I didn't see Nick, I seen Nicholas P. Collins. And so he is the incumbent for the first Suffolk district. I believe this is the second race for the new maps that were drawn for the senatorial district. Most notably, Senator Elizabeth Miranda is the inaugural senator and the second for the blackest district in the state. And so, Carlos, what are your thoughts? I'll just name that we're aware that there was some contention between Mayor Wu and Nicholas Collins, and also Mayor Wu and Brownsburger. And she's supporting opponents to Brownsburger and also Nicholas Collins. But District 1 is getting the most attention. What are your thoughts? And then let me know when you, I'll know when you start talking about the money, because to your point, fundraising plays a role, and there's some variances between some of these candidates. So what are your thoughts about Nicholas?
So there's a lot of interesting dynamics. I mean, I entered the House with now State Senator Nick Collins in 2011, right? So that just tells you how long he's been around. And part of politics is relationships, and that has given him the amount of time to do business with, share time with, and build relationships with a lot of people. And I think you might see that in terms of endorsements that are surprising some people and that some people feel a way about. And there's obviously a lot of other things into play that you mentioned. There is the difference between how Mayor Wu felt about her tax bill and how that was going to play into, I'm not forecasting anything, but you never know. But how her tax bill, where she wanted to be able to raise taxes, played in the Senate and in the House, right? So there was some pushback. I think it got lost in messaging, and I think to this day, people are still not clear who the bad guy is or the bad person is in that tax conversation. Nonetheless, she's definitely supporting his opponent, Latoya Gale, who does have a history of advocacy that is prior to her being supported by Mayor Wu. Sometimes that campaign message doesn't always get that out in time, or voters don't always look for that. But even with that being said, Nick Collins is at least politically, is a very strong foe to be able to defeat, especially as a first timer. And I think if you look at his numbers, where he receives his votes, the money he's able to raise, you can look at where some of that money comes from, and you can derive some things from that. But no matter what, at the end of the day, he's a formidable opponent.
Let's get into it, Carlos, with the money as far as with Senator Collins and also Latoya Gale. Currently, Senator Collins, and just to be transparent, we got this information that is publicly available on the Office of Political and Campaign Financing. You will hear us often. You have often heard Carlos and others refer to OCPF. That is the entity that ensures that campaigns are running in a proper manner by the law. Currently, Nicholas Collins has 364,000, just about 365,000 in the bank with unique donors. Carlos, in a second, I'll ask you to explain that. Latoya Gale, who's a first-time candidate, has just about $73,000 with 400 unique donors. That's something that stood out to me. So before I get into that, can you define for us a unique donor? What is that?
So that's not someone. So let me back up a little bit. This comparison is in a time frame between December 1st of 2025 and August 17th of 2026. So when we're looking at that time period, it's how many different individuals made a donation to your campaign. And then you can figure out what the average is that each donor makes by, doing the math. So in that same time period, State Senator Nick Collins shows 900 different people. I guess that might include organizations as well, PACs and political action committees, union endorsements and their political action committees, to Latoya Gale's 403, which is a pretty nice number for a first-time candidate. But what I will say is a state senatorial district is a large area, and it costs a lot of money to run. So when you see the difference in it, You're seeing the difference in who can afford ads in newspapers and radio ads and mail and things of that nature. Printers to print maps for volunteers to go down the street and knock on doors. All these things factor to be able to pay staff to create those maps. All these things factor into that number. And the larger that number of total raised, the more you're able to do it.
The difference with the unique donors, there is, so I wanted to go back just 1 second to highlight something, Carlos. Let me just get this wonderful. Okay, there we go. Unique donors, and then here, I don't know if I was able to break it down. I did not break it down. There's one of the, I think this is the one where you can obviously see that people donated, some of those donators, people that donated more than once. That was indicated somewhere in one of these forms, but I just wanted to bring out the point, like you said, that 400 unique donors in a first time senatorial. I think that's significant.
And then you have some more, there's more details here down bottom where you have a Boston unique donors at 381 for Nick Collins, and outside Boston Nick donors are 510, and Latoya's at 278. So they almost have, they have about 100 people donor difference in Boston unique donors. The major difference in their unique donors is how much money, how many different donors Senator Nick Collins has outside of Boston. And, that could be unions, that could be friends and family, that could be people, that could be developers. Until you go into the details of it, you don't know who is investing in, that campaign.
And in fairness, he has colleagues in other parts of the state that donate outside of the city. Outside of the city. Thank you so much for that. Is there anything else that we would want to mention about the we talked about Mayor Wu supporting Latoya Gale. We talked about Senator Collins being an incumbent, and maybe we can squeeze a little bit of this in here for overall. He's received a lot of significant endorsements, Carlos. Can we very quickly talk about endorsements? Because I think that will also help maybe set a stage for the district attorney's race as well. How significant are endorsements?
It depends on the endorsement. It's a case-by-case basis. Some endorsements, so for instance, you can get an endorsement from a 501c3, a C4, which is a political action committee, and that they can donate maybe $1,000. There are larger PACs that can donate larger amounts or have non-coordinated donations that they can help out with the campaign. So there's different levels to it. Some endorsements come with volunteers. I've been in a race where the teachers union put 2 volunteers at an opponent's polling location for them at every polling location. So it depends. Some people just give you their face in a picture and hope that convinces some people to change their vote or consider or pay attention to the person that they're supporting. So it really depends on the person that's endorsing, how they're explaining that endorsement, what they're saying, the reason that they're endorsing for. Some people don't even explain their endorsement, which is always weird to me. If I endorse an elected official, if I tell you why I'm backing somebody and why I think you should back them, I at least feel I owe it to you to make an argument. I don't think that you should follow me blindly, down some path. It's nice to be trusted, but it's nice to be empowered and be critical thinkers and make an informed decision. So, but people play it all different ways. So it depends on the endorsement. Become money and power, or just money, or just pictures. It's all different.
Can you talk about another piece that we have talked about before? Is it may not come with significance of bodies and fundraising, but the influence of an endorsement that may not bring the bodies and the money, but they have influence. An example is every election day, Carlos. You probably get them. I still get them. Who am I voting for? I've had a couple of people reach out. I'm early voting. Here's my list. Who am I voting for? Does that have significance as well?
I think absolutely. As a grassroots organizer, that's how a voting block is created. It's if you're trusted to be a leader in your precinct, on your block, before you even start to look at a precinct or your ward, if your community turns to you, that's how I got into an elected seat. Is I started to build out of that circle of concern and circle of influence. So if my neighbors were concerned about something, I wanted to make myself their go-to, so I knew how to get it done politically. Therefore, they would trust in me, and when we would turn around and ask me, who should we believe that is aligned with us, I would tell them, well, I like this person because they respond to this, or we're aligned to this because they're gonna take our call when we call in about this. And so, playing that kind of role in creating voting blocks and organizing, that is actual political power, and that is bigger than a candidate. That's the kind of infrastructure that I think, especially historically underserved in Black and Brown communities, need to be more focused about. Unfortunately, we get emotionally charged about an endorsement, whether we received it or didn't get it as a candidate. As a supporter, whether we're like, this person either pissed me off by giving this endorsement out because it's not who I think they should have given it to, or they didn't give the endorsement I think they should have. So it plays on an emotional level. But that endorsement, again, it just depends what comes with it. And maybe that has blowback sometimes for the endorser. You endorse the wrong person and you don't state your case on why you endorse that person. That person that voter that used to support you may now look at you a different way the next time your name is on the ballot.
And we know a few of our elected officials that very rarely endorse. And when they do, we're like, that must mean something. And so, Carlos, I want to get back to the district attorney's race. I just wanted to let folks know we do have an opportunity for you to engage with us in the comments. Let us know how significant are endorsements to you based on what Carlos said. And then also we have a poll. I know that everybody here is not part of the first Suffolk district, but maybe based on what you're seeing in the media, the mayor's been here. Carlos, her last appearance, I asked her about the first Suffolk race.
Mm-hmm.
Respectfully, I'll just say Shelley came out. People have seen a lot of it. Oh, it was interesting. People have seen things in the media. So I'm asking you all to engage in the conversation here. How significant are endorsements? And as well as put a 1 in the comments if you were in this first Suffolk and be able to vote there, if you were to support LaToya Gale, and put a 2 if you were to support Nicholas Collins. And so we'll go back to that
voting. So look, this is a new feature. You got the little early poll voting going on the okay, I see you. All right.
We're adding that to the Java with Jimmy platform. We're going to do some polling candidates. But you mentioned a word earlier about emotions, and that made me think of there are a lot of emotions in stepping up to be a candidate. And then when you rally the support of people, there is a feeling that people identify with your experience, your life story, a policy that you're proposing. So I think emotions deserve their credit in a campaign, in the electoral process. This district attorney's this district attorney's race, Carlos, let's get into a little bit of the messaging. And by observation, Carlos, from way back in 2018, you was involved with that, with the difference the DA makes, and just there was a lot of emotion around progressive.
I was a Rachel Rollins supporter, and actually, and
you actually
on the campaign.
Remember you helped convert me. Remember the meeting at Sewer Joint?
Yeah, I mean, I met her, tested her. When I say tested her, introduced her to some people and see what kind of candidate I thought she would be, and I thought she would be a great candidate in 2018. And joined her campaign, and I thought it was a great campaign. It was a really energetic campaign that I don't know if I've seen a campaign like it since, probably.
So that might be a good transition, Carlos, into let's talk about messaging. And let's start, maybe since we're here with Rachel, the comparison to the message and the energy, as we stated in the opening. There was a coalition. There was a few years, but the whole movement post George Floyd and post everything that was going on in the criminal justice system, There is reference to that in Rachel's current messaging. Let's talk about her messaging during this campaign. And let's, as I started, a little bit about the emotional part of it.
So, as a viewer, I've seen a lot of different messaging. All right. So respectfully, the messaging that moves me most and that I was already aware of, which I wish had started sooner, is the messaging about the integrity review board and people that being exonerated that were wrongfully convicted. Obviously, it appeals to me in general, the justice issue. As somebody that was wrongfully convicted, it appeals to me as a personal issue. So I understand the emotions behind it. I shouldn't say unfortunately. I'm not voting in this, so I'm just using this as an example. I'm not a one issue voter, right? We're looking at this campaign. When you say I'm answering the questions to messaging, so that's one line of messaging is really having a district attorney that is socially aware and understands the social inequities of the past, not only the present, but of the past, that will identify that there was wrongdoing and dedicate staff to it and a number of cases per year to be reviewed to rescue and salvage whatever life and dignity and years and time with family that they can, which can never necessarily be replaced, but at least there's some semblance, you know what I mean? Like that's a major statement. That's a major statement. And that plays to a lot of people that can relate to it. And then there are also some that doesn't play for at all. They could care less about it. And they vote too. So besides that messaging, some of the other messaging has been kind of you do it too. Like, yes, I've stumbled, but everybody stumbled. And that's, and that's I think that's a message. I think she's been clear about that message. I think people receive that message differently too. I think some people say, yes, she should be, she slipped and she admitted it. And one of her opponents, I think Kevin Hayden, has an ethics complaint violation as well. So they should just balance out. But, the media has this bias and people have their individual bias. So they'll play up some. If you're reading Herald comments, Rachel Rollins is the most evil person in the world. And if you're reading something more progressive, they might say the same thing about Kevin Hayden. So
and Linda Champion.
And Linda Champion, but because of her now support of, she's received the support of like 3 or 4 different police unions and refers to herself as top cop. So all those messages that are coming from the campaign and the candidate, they evoke different emotions in different places. And it depends on the place, and it depends how many people in that place vote on September 1st decides the outcome, whether those policies or that issue that you like gets to proceed at full speed, or maybe gets shelved, or maybe gets done at half speed, and maybe you become disenfranchised because emotionally you couldn't handle the loss and you check out, or maybe you're in it for the long haul and the commitment, and you start to build that voting block so that you find and organize more people that are galvanized around that issue who are willing to come out and vote from those places on a September 1st for that candidate or for that issue. And, you see it in the future election.
The latter part of that is applicable to all 3 of the candidates. Let's go. We talked about Rachel's messaging. Let's talk about Kevin Hayden's messaging. And I want to just make one note. Rachel is the IRB. That's a lot of her messaging and the progression of what she's done. Kevin's messaging, how do you perceive? What is it that you get from when you hear him?
From his campaign bill, and just to be fair, I'm listening to what the campaign, right? I don't, even though the candidate owns everything the campaign says, not necessarily all their supporters, but whatever the campaign says. So I think what I'm hearing is that, it's a very generic, what I would call generic political message. I'm committed to this. I have a history of this. I've been built for this, whether I knew it or not. I've been in this business a long time. I care. And I'm trying to get the job done. I want to continue to get the job done. And that is a very level set message. And like we said in the top of the show, I think you named off the numbers. He received 41,000 votes in 2022 with that message. So the question is, does that message enough? And do people feel good about prosecution the policy changes. Is there still a non-prosecute list for shoplifting and things like that that people feel better about? You know, is that going to change those numbers? Is Rachel going to be able to claim her 35,000? Is he going to be able to claim his 41,000? Are the police that voted for him and their families that voted for him in 2022, are they now going to leave him and vote for Linda, and Linda's number bump up from 5,000? She still has another, 20,000 to go to get to a win number that would get her over the hump.
My question, when you were talking about that there, you talked about the 35%. It's interesting because we have three candidates. And Carlos, maybe just pause for a minute. As much as there is a variation between the three of them, I haven't seen this out there a lot, but can we just celebrate the fact that for, I believe it was up until 2018, what was it, 15 years that Dan Conley, it was over a decade that Dan Conley was wasn't it?
Yeah, Dan Conley, yeah. That he was the same DA. So now you at least have challengers on a regular basis now looking at this.
And have we ever, by your recollection, for the Suffolk County District Attorney had three Black candidates?
Not that I recall, no.
And so I have to name, that significance as well. I think, and let's just generally name that two are women, whatever let's just name that I think that is something that we should acknowledge, that we have three Black candidates and two of them are women for the district attorney. So three candidates and splitting 35% can be very interesting. We'll get into a little bit of the numbers. We did Kevin, we did Rachel. Now let's talk about Linda's messaging. What are your observations? What are you hearing?
Oh, I was going to put the question back on you. I mean, we've heard the top cop. It's kind of a very law and order message, right? I've seen the car wrapped. I've seen the shaking hands with the police officer handing the citation or check over. It's a lot of and I'll say this about, I think, Champion's messaging and a lot of their messaging. It's very me centered. I think the challenge for a Champion is that she's run before. I don't know. I don't think the community is informed. The voting community is informed of what she's been doing in the meantime. I think I've heard her speak about her housing advocacy. I think she spent some time working for the incumbent, Hayden. And so I think she's struggled to deliver a message besides law and order that is going to excite enough people to come out. Because that fundraising, while you can raise $25,000 more, if those funds are coming from outside of Suffolk County, then they don't necessarily translate into votes directly, right? It's, if you live in Suffolk County and you donate $1,000, most likely you're voting on September 1st, right? And now it's different if you donate $1,000 and you live out in Middlesex County. The $1,000 is nice, but as a candidate, now I have to convert that into a vote. I have to buy a sign, I have to buy mail, and I have to get a Suffolk County voter to vote for me. So it's different where the money is coming from. So she'll have to convert that money coming from police officers, but they've been on the force for 20 years, so they're outside the residency policy, or it comes from a union, then it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to vote. But maybe it does. Maybe she gets 1,000 officers and four of their family members to vote for her, and that gives her 5,000 more votes than she had before. So now she's at 10,000, but still well short of 35%.
My observations of her, there's two things that stand out. I had the opportunity to meet and chat with her at the Jimmy Fund Scooper Bowl. And then I started seeing the cadence online for the campaign, and I was my observation is that top cop persona is interesting. And I've seen posts that in the comments, and for some people have at some extent in it's like a finger pointing, bad behavior sort of, and law and order. And while law and order, I think generally.
So you mean like it's almost a dog whistle? It's like a dog whistle to certain communities. Say, yeah.
Yes.
this
It
county, these
is.
neighborhoods need somebody to punish them. I mean, I don't want to drag us into a conversation about law and order, but one, it's usually the police commissioner in a town or a sheriff that calls himself the top cop. You're actually the top prosecutor, and that's the difference. But it shows, I think it shows a clear, to some people that are concerned about, people are already concerned about prosecution working hand in hand with police already. So to reformers, that messaging, that kind of message would turn them off away from Melinda Champion. And maybe in precincts where where Rachel was strong and where Ricardo Arroyo was strong in 2022. And I think you might have numbers for some of those wards and precincts, but maybe it helps her grow in precincts where Greg Henning is strong and where DA Hayden got a lot of votes, like in Ward 16 in the Ponset area, Dorchester, or in the very conservative enclaves of Ward 2 in South Boston. I'm sorry, 6 in South Boston and Ward 2 in Charlestown. Like, those neighborhoods might respond to law and order calls differently than Ward 12 and 14.
And it's interesting. I have now where Carlos and I did some prep and I'm getting the slides and things together. But the last thing I'll say about Linda was one thing that was interesting as I celebrated that all of the candidates were Black, being Black and understanding the injustices of imbalances and inequities in the system. There was and I'm going to be fair, I don't know if her campaign issued it, but I seen something on social media associated with her that was an image of Rachel Rollins and Kevin Hayden behind bars. And with the ethics and things like that, I'll ask you a question. For us as a Black community that are at the worst and most receiving end of the injustices, is that something that would maybe make you're understanding, you're going in the role of the top prosecutor with hopefully understanding the inequities. It was just interesting to see that imagery associated with that campaign. 2 Black people imaged behind bars, that it just didn't rub me the right way.
So it hits on so many different levels. I'm trying to think about how to kind of give a wraparound answer, because I think everybody gets to look at it through their lens, right? So her illusion, and this is part of the messaging that I've heard, and I'm sure others have heard, is she regularly brings up the ethics violations of her opponent, with Rachel Rollins as a U.S. attorney, and with Kevin Hayden as a candidate and then appointed DA before he won the election. Now their ethics violations are different. They're different in nature, and I encourage people to look into it if they're very much concerned about it. Because some people will look, depending on how passionate you feel about that person or their issue, you might look over it or you might not be aware of it. So, attending a fundraiser when they say you're not supposed to, it might not bother you. Sharing sensitive information that may or may not be true might not bother you. Leaking the name of a minor who was involved in a sexual assault from their childhood, that may bother you. So depending on the person and the ethics violation, and then for the third candidate that does not have an ethics violation and never sat in the seat to really receive one, for them to use that imagery is very pointed. So clearly the campaign is trying to cast the aspersion. To some it'll stick. It depends again. Is that the message? Is she getting traction in the neighborhood she wants to get traction in, right? Because if that's not going to make somebody come out for you and vote September 1st, then you're just drawing pictures, or your messaging is not working, I should say, to be more considerate and professional.
One of the other major components about a campaign, along with messaging, and thank you for the review of the messaging of all 3 candidates, is fundraising. You talked about it a little bit at the top. And so let's get into it. And I want to mix up the order of what we start with, folks, so no one is saying,
All right.
Let's start. Let's start back.
Are you getting grief in the comments already?
No, there's some debate about Linda and her life experience and, being a good candidate. And there's some a little bit of pushback from that. Hold on for 1 second, Carl. So Let's start with Linda since I had her up.
All right.
To your point, there is just under about a $25,000 increase in her fundraising compared to 2018 and
Yep.
now. I believe that is significant. In 2018, she had 284 unique voters. Another one of these 309 contributions.
Donor.
People donated a couple of times. In 3,000, and then in 2026, 343, and then 386 new donors. With the energy that a lot of us are seeing and some observation that her universe, let's use that term, elected officials, candidates use a term, folks, called universe, which is basically their who they want to speak to, who they believe they can rally to support. And her universe is largely comprised of a law enforcement base. And so I have a few questions for you, Carlos. In this $25,000 sort of increase in her fundraising, the donors, 284 unique, 343, not a huge bump, but a bump. But do you believe that she is having a bump in her fundraising because of what we just talked about, that being the DA, some feel that with Rachel and Kevin having ethics violations? Let's just also name that I believe Kevin lost a lot of law enforcement support based on his
and probably donations as well. Probably at least $25,000, if not more.
So, and there's people that saying that votes wise, and it's not obvious in fundraising. Well, we're going to look at Kevin in a minute, and there's a significant variance in his fundraising before and now. And so, law enforcement may not have as much law enforcement support because of his prosecution of Officer Nicholas O'Malley, who killed Stephenson King. And so there can be some presumptions made there. Anything that you would like to cite that you're seeing in the numbers as well for Linda specifically?
Yeah. Well, just let me back up a little bit, just to kind of fix the frame a little bit. So the universe for a candidate is the entire district, right? Like so you have to look at Suffolk County. She needs to get. So this is how we would approach a candidate if we're consulting it. So Linda Champion walks in the room. I know that she needs to get 35% of this three-way split, right? So we look at all the votes that are available in Suffolk County. The district is Suffolk County. And then out of that universe, we're going to figure out, is there a pattern we can look at where you are, in this case, we've already run before, where you already did well. We're going to assume that you're still doing well unless you piss those people off. And then we're going to create a pathway. We're going to create a universe within the county of where we think that message resonates. So we know historically law and order messaging resonates better in police enforcement neighborhoods. Now I'm using that term loosely to describe like I said, Ward 16 in the Ponds at Dorchester, Ward 6 in South Boston's Charlestown, where many police officers, families have grown up for years as Irish enclaves in Dorchester and South Boston, right? Maybe even Charlestown. So they're more likely to have an endearing message and a view of law enforcement, be more supportive, have family there. So then you start to create a pathway through there. So you look at spending your money. So when you get $25,000, that's not enough for me to mail everybody from South Boston to Mattapan. So I got to say, well, who likes our message more? It's not resonating in Roxbury. So let me, because that's where Rachel does big numbers, or that's where Ricardo's done big numbers. And I never did well there. So now I got to send my mail that cost me $6,000 to print. I got to send it to South Boston. I got to send it to Neponset. I got to buy some signs, and I got to go talk to people and see if they put my signs over there. So that's how the universe gets created. And that money, like I said, if it's not coming from unique Boston donors, let's say it is coming from Boston donors, 343, that's only 343 votes, right? If every one of those unique donors was a Boston voter, you have 343 votes. So then the job of the campaign is, how do you spend $87,000 on getting the message out to as many people that you think will convert that into showing up on September 1st? That's a huge gap.
It is a huge gap. And thank you for giving an example of why fundraising matters. You kind of mentioned it before, but going through it like that about the mailers, I have a clarifying question on what you just said, Carlos. Does your fundraising also influence? Does numbers and fundraising also influence where you will not spend money?
Yeah. If I don't get votes there, if I don't have a chance of getting any votes there or very little. So when we looked at that in the beginning, when you brought up how much money they spend per vote,
Yep.
that's where that dollar comes in. If I have to mail your neighborhood 3 times, that means I had to print that flyer 3 times and pay for postage 3 times, and I had to send volunteers and I had to pay. You know what I mean? It's a cumulative number. Then it cost me more to get votes there. And if I only got 10 votes, now I'm actually spending $15 per vote. And if my opponent is spending only 6, they're getting more bang for their buck. And that's if bucks are even. And as you see by our research, the bucks are not even. Some people have long dough that can reach it. Some people are going to be able to, pay to wrap their car but not mail the entire county. So when we talk about how at least campaigns engage people, I'm sure people think they should engage everybody, but one is not feasible without money. This is why they have to fundraise. They can't do it without money.
I wanted to bring in a well-respected brother that we both know and love, Brother Shagun, and we didn't get into it yet, but I've made some observations about old school. We're going to talk about.
I'm glad this was my next. This is a good. Because if you don't have money, you better have energy to galvanize volunteers.
And we're going to get into that, Carlos, because we're going to get into that in a minute. But I just wanted to read his comment. Not sure if it was said already, but important to note that fundraising isn't everything. Many of our current elected officials were outspent, but came out on top votes wise. Very significant votes wise. Let's put an asterisk there and remember that lawn signs and mailers don't vote. Who is on the door? Who's on the doors? Who's connecting on the ground? Who has vision versus a list of grievances? That is what wins elections. That's what we call ground game, field game. Come on, Carlos, because I know you.
I love it, and it's correct. But lawn signs and mailers do play. And in an emotional world as ours, when you get that shiny, glossy piece of mail, and then you look at it and you go, oh, it has people that look like me on it, and the photography's nice, and the text is just right, and it plays. It's not everything, and you can outwork it, but it's a nice thing to have.
You can outwork it. It takes a lot of work. The other piece is on the other side, and I said this to you, and I said it to Newton, a couple other people. I haven't got a mailer from anybody, and to super voter, it's a like, well, what are you doing?
Well,
so there's the other
let's see. Well, if I'm not sure if either candidate can afford it. Well, it's early. You're supposed to get it in the next 2 weeks. Maybe they didn't have enough. I don't think anyone had enough money to mail. In a campaign, you'd like to mail everybody twice. You'd like to mail them in the beginning and say, hi, my name is, and then you'd like to mail them again. If you can, you want to mail them every week. Nobody got that kind of dough. You've seen some mailers that happens like that. But otherwise, you save your most important mailer is a week out, 2 weeks out. Don't forget to vote September 1st. That's the most important mailer. So some people save that as your GOTV, get out the vote mailer, and you should be getting that, especially if you're a super voter. If your neighborhood, again, historically votes and that candidate sees value in getting your vote, then you should see a mailer. There is a ecosystem. Just because you're registered to vote and you voted in 2012, I'm telling my candidate not to send you a mailer, probably, because if the last time you voted was for 2012 when Barack Obama was on the presidential primary, then what's the likelihood you're voting on September 1st is very low. That's wasted money in my eyes as a consultant.
Can I just say one thing since you brought that up? I wonder if so you remember when Barack Obama ran, that was also the same time that legalization of recreational marijuana was on the ballot. I remember, Carlos, being at the polls. I remember cats coming out. I remember voters, coming out, and they were getting out the car. There was clouds of smoke coming out behind them, and you heard and felt the energy for Obama. I say that and ask you, based on one of the ballot questions, and I'll be reaching out to you because we're going to need to do a ballot show soon. the what do you call it? Rescinding of
Appealing.
repealing, thank you,
Yeah.
of the legalization of recreational marijuana is on the ballot.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's going to help voter turnout? And there are some indicators in me asking you that question. I'm just going to own that. Do you think that's going to help
in November? In November, if sure,
because the ballot? Yes,
right. It ain't going to help you in September.
Okay. Yeah.
This race in September, especially in,
That's it.
and I keep bringing these up for people that, especially if you live in a community of color or a historically underserved community, this is the election that we vote least in. And I'm not saying what people should do or shouldn't, but to get more clout in these elections when there isn't a president on the ballot, yeah, there needs to be larger. The larger the turnout, the more clout you get. The more clout you claim, the more leverage you have in whatever race, whatever piece of policy you want for a candidate to pick up. Like it's a tug of war. You know what I mean? It's a push and pull. Nobody has all the strength in one side. So I mean, to Shagun's point, boots on the ground is a good counterbalance to big money. So you can have a candidate like Nick Collins. Perfect. Let's use this as an example. Nick Collins has $300,000. If I'm advising the Gale campaign and the people that love to support her, they have to get out and they have to press shoe leather. I can't pay to mail that door, but I can volunteer 4 hours and knock on that door. I can take the piece of literature that we can afford to print. We can't mail it, but I can go drop that off and wear down my Nikes or my Adidas for the day, and I can take 3 friends with me and we can cover 4 times. We can cover the whole precinct. And now people in that neighborhood, just like you said, you're checking for mail, right? Now, the more that happens in those neighborhoods, the more you're used to getting that mail. You notice when it doesn't come, like, they're not checking for me. They're not asking for my vote. That's a change in the maturity in our political attitude that we need more of. And it's up to the candidates and it's up to the campaigns and it's up to the elected officials when they're elected. But it ultimately falls on all of the participants in the community, especially the voters, because it's the voters that are going to get screwed in the end. The voters are the masses. It is their voice. It is their responsibility. So those voters turn into volunteers, whether for a campaign, for an issue, for a season, for a reason. And that's how campaigns are won or lost.
We're going to, toward the end, really get into the importance of voting, the presumed expectation of a candidate to make sure that they're what we call ones, and we'll explain that in a few minutes, get out to vote. But I wanted to do justice to just some observations. And I think this is because this is significant. Though we respect and understand what Shagun said, there's one when we get into fundraising now.
Say that thing you were gonna say, like, because we also got people also have money. They just don't spend it and see the wisdom in it. And there's a history to that too. I don't know if I jumped the gun on that one.
Go ahead.
But I remember being a candidate. First time I was a candidate, I was 27 years old, and so the same guys that I drank beer with, and that cop and Trey Fives with, when I turned around and asked for $25, everybody started patting their pocket. Now I know a case of Heineken costs $25 because I'm buying one every week on Friday night, and so I know who we got it, and so I had to explain to them that listen, I'm asking you for your support to show up different. If you can show up for me for a case of beer, or for some smoke, or for a party, I'm not taking your $25 and now spending it on beer for myself and putting it in my man cave. I had to actually tell them, like, no, here's the price of stamps is 49 cents a stamp. This buys me this many stamps. Or my 4x8 sign that you see on Quincy Street, that joint costs $2.50 a piece. And God forbid somebody run a razor through it. You know what I'm saying? So explaining to people the value of fundraising, what it gets spent on, I think is important, because we do also have some disposable dollars or investable dollars in our community that we choose to not invest in our candidates, that we choose not to give our time to.
We're going to get into that because I want to.
I read it. Okay, I'll chill.
I want to close out with that because I'll just say this toward the end. I'll share with you more why, talking to the audience, I'll share with the audience why I have a sentiment. I think Carlos has the observation as well that it is going to be very interesting for some people, presumably on September 1st. And so I want to have that responsibility of the voters and the supporters and also the candidates toward the end, because I think that is no matter the race, the ballot question, the issue, to what you just laid out about being involved and getting the mailers and your candidate or whatever.
Just saying somebody got to lose. I mean, that's the truth of it. Somebody got to lose.
And then we'll get into
the DA's race. Two people got to lose.
Oh God. Okay. Let's look at some of the fundraising. Let's go back to
my back.
Okay. Kevin Hayden. Now, Carlos Henriquez.
Sitting on about $500,000.
That was in 2022.
Yeah.
So Carlos.
Now he had to get right. So he went from 1,302 donors
to 420.
To 420. Now this is speculation, right? This is when we sit around politicals talk.
Yeah.
Some of that is police money, but let's say that's $25,000. That's, maybe a little bit more. There's still a lot of money and a lot of unique donors missing. So some of that is the indictment of the police officer. Some of that might have been the hype. There was a lot of push against Rachel Rollins, the policies that she instituted in 2018. It was intentional in Councilor Ricardo Arroyo's messaging that he was going to continue many of those policies. The do not prosecute list, the cops that lie will not testify list, things that were going to upset many people in their status quo. So people that were against that, and again, this is why I'm glad we're focusing on fundraising, all things considered. People put their money where their mouth is or where their heart is. So whether you believe in their cause or you're against it, it's one thing to say, I like that policy. It's another thing to donate $25 to it and 4 hours to it. And so that's what you're seeing when you're seeing that number go up and go down. It's how that campaign is channeling energy from a voter to go in their pocket and or give time. In this case, it's to go in their pocket. What motivated 1,300 people to go in their pocket then, and why only 420 now? It could be something as simple as maybe you didn't ask them. Maybe you lost an email list. It could be a myriad of reasons, but we know some of it is the police officers. He's lost that money and those people have gone away. I'd like to say that for every officer, you have a family member of 4. So you can give if there's 1,000 of them, say there's 5,000 votes they control. And if they all give $1,000, that number can grow quickly. It could be $25,000. It could be $50,000 if you can get family members to donate. They're not all donating 1,000, but you get where I'm going.
I just thought about this speculation up until I believe the incident happened where Officer Nicholas O'Malley was charged and being prosecuted for killing Stephen King. You notice I say that as many times as I can in full depth. I wonder if Kevin was not going hard. We're talking speculation for a couple of seconds. If Kevin was not going too hard up until that, because there was potentially maybe only Linda was going to enter the race, or maybe there's some speculation there that I was just thinking about, that maybe he wasn't going hard in fundraising until March.
Yeah, possibly, but also it's an interesting play because some of the messaging has been, the police accused him of doing that as a political move, but he didn't earn anything from that. He didn't earn any friends on either side, right? He burnt that bridge and stood right in the middle and lit both ends. He lost the police, and it's not like he gained.
May I suggest one area where I believe he gained?
Where?
Around and close to, I would say, I don't want to say speak for them. I believe there were a lot of people that perceived Kevin. I did. And we had our first interview.
I get what I see where you're going with it, but
there was a lot of
move you to vote, and you don't gotta tell me who you're voting for. Tell you all your followers who you're voting for.
I'm not, but
So when I say earned, I mean, does it convert into a vote?
Okay,
You know, he ain't getting it cost him the police.
Are they going to vote? They're happy. They're like, yeah, man, he getting
happy is nice. Happy is nice.
Poll.
Yeah, see what I mean? Okay. And that's what I mean. We have to with political maturity, we have to the emotion has to convert into an action that builds and moves the voting block forward. You can be angry and we can talk about accountability and we can argue on Facebook and social media all day. But on September 1st, the truth shall out. You know what I mean? Whether you have a voting block, whether you are the influencer you said you are, whether your campaign spent more time online than at doors, whether your message resonated, who it resonated with, whether they showed up and kept their promise to you, like those things are they come true on election day. They come true.
They definitely do. And all right, I'm going to stay focused. Let's look at our final candidate for the district attorney's race as we're reviewing the numbers, and that is Rachel Rollins. And so in 2018, and let's just name similar to Kevin had Carlos, similar to Kevin having sort of riding a wave post Rachel. There was, we've said it in the opening and said it a few times, there was a coalition, there was a national movement for the difference a DA makes, a progressive approach all across the country, different parts of the country, rather. There were DAs elected that year that were progressive. Now, in 2017 and 18, Rachel had 1,649 unique voters with 1,838 donations. That, I think, is the biggest variance since we've looked at the difference of unique versus multiple donations of some of the unique voters.
And so, and just to pause there, what that says to me is that, right, it's probably a mix. When you give 1,000 in a campaign year, you're capped.
Done.
But when you really like a candidate and you give them a little bit of money, I can give them 50 this month and 50 another month. That shows you really in the grassroots when they continue to return to you and give you what they have, what they can spare, basically. I'm just about the calculator to try to do some math on what.
Okay. And just another note for any prospective candidates, folks that are getting ready to run for Boston City Council, you need to hit this brother up and consult with him. But I hope you're paying attention to the fact, because if you are running and you form a committee, you need to get your people to commit to your committee by December. And if you get them to the max of $1,000, you can also allow them to give $1,000.
Now I know you said we want to close. I think this is really a great slide to look at. So when I divided the 275 by 1649, it gave me an average of $141. Right?
That is a grassrootsy.
That's a pair of Jordans.
But that's not that. I think that is, when they say small donors, I think that is
small donors. That's what I'm saying is who in the neighborhood. Obviously, we have poverty in the neighborhood. I'm not making light of that, but colloquially speaking, everybody got a pair of Jordans. Everybody, people spend $150 on a night out at dinner at a restaurant that's not in their community. People spend $150, on self-care. And I'm not saying that you don't deserve self-care, but maybe you sacrifice 1 month of self-care for a candidate that's going to carry some policy that's going to change your neighborhood. Just things to consider. You know what I mean? Like $150, and that's in a calendar year, or basically more or less a calendar year. You could break that up over installments. That could have been, $25 a few times.
You're speaking to a little bit, and we're going to do the deep dive into energy. You talked about conversion.
Yeah.
Energy online, energy at a debate would better serve your candidate that you support, that you want to win, to convert that energy into dollars and physical energy of door knocking, getting other people to donate. And we didn't say this word, but even do people still phone bank, Carlos?
Absolutely. It's very cost effective. You just have to there's a cost to it. You have to have the phones available. So either someone donates that to you, and you have to feed the volunteers that are going to be on the phone. and hopefully you're feeding them more than pizza.
And you got to get the phones. Remember John Barros' setup?
Yeah, that's what I said. You got to get the phones. Sometimes the union has their own phones. Sometimes you get a union endorsement and they have phones for you. Sometimes you set up your own phones in the office, and that's a cost you incur yourself. Sometimes volunteers use their own phones, and you just provide them the list. But let's go back and do that. Let's do the formula for you so it works. So we're saying that 1,600 in 2018, 1,649 people made an average donation of $141, and that raised $233,275, and that converted into enough energy to garner Rachel Rollins 35,124 votes across Boston, Chelsea, Everett, and Winthrop.
Yep.
Okay, so that paid for the phone banks, it paid for the phones, it paid for the flyers, it paid for the mail, it paid for all of that. And that was just 1,600 people with $150 were able to launch a candidate, get a candidate, a reformer, right? That's her persona. That's the aura. If she had an aura tag, it would be the reformer, right? And you were able to fund and launch a reformer. Now, 2026, 8 years later, it's a different snapshot.
A very different snapshot. And I don't know if you will be surprised to hear this, but I did presumably the same math you did for this, that you did for 18. I did it for 25, 26. And that comes out to $209 at a much. So let's just name that we went from a 1,649 unique voter
Donor
to now a 62 unique voter. When I divided 62, 12,977,
yeah,
the per donation actually goes up.
Average is up $2, right? But overall, right? You see the
Is there any significance there of that?
That's a huge. It's a huge difference. It's about what? Let's say almost 1,600 people ain't rocking with you or aren't investing the same way. Either you didn't ask them, they said no. And it's going to have that has a major difference in how you move. That means that maybe I can pay for the software that runs the campaign. I can pay for a campaign manager. Yep. It changes the quality of the campaign manager that you can hire. The average campaign manager cost for a race like that is anywhere between $4,000 to $7,000 a month. So that wouldn't even cover a campaign manager of a certain quality. I'm not, I don't want to sidetrack this.
Yeah.
There's levels to it. And so, but that has those type of ripple effects because the quality of your campaign, and this is different than the emotions of people feel as a voter feels. The job of your campaign is to convert energy into a vote. And you have to use the resources you have, whether it's $1, $6.17, like Rachel Rollins in 2018, or whether it's shoe leather or a combination of to convert those two things. They have to come together in a fixed period of time to make it happen. It's not what people think. It's a popularity contest on steroids. It's a lot. And people think they know it from outside. Vote building a cost by itself. Then you got to pay somebody that understands how to use it, and you have to be able to manage them to make sure that they're using it correctly. And then you have to make sure that volunteers are coming in and pick up that list. You have to make sure they're taking out the list and knocking on the doors. They're bringing the list back in, giving it to that paid person again or that volunteer again to put it back into the computer to print another list to you. And this goes on and on and on. And you're feeding them. You're putting a brick and mortar over their head. Hopefully, you have to pay for that campaign office. These are things.
Fundraising is
yes. And in that first slide, 1,649 people made it possible for Rachel Rollins to run that campaign out of Center Street in Jamaica Plain and launch a successful campaign. I don't know if 62 unique donors are going to be able to do it. Obviously, they still have the office. Obviously, even from a good ways away, it's not spending as much time in Boston as I used to. You see and feel the energy is different.
It is very different. And I think that away from the candidates, there's external differences of the climate we're in naturally, a more of a law and order demand sort of, and we can't take all of Boston for granted. And I'll just go ahead and say the dump guy out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. There are some external factors that play into, along with ground game, preparation, you know, being a candidate that can rally voters and rally dollars. I'll frame it like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll challenge that it's not just the candidates. Obviously, during campaign season. However, I'm sure there's a lot of change agents watching your show. There is the same mechanism has to work on the community level as well. Those voting blocks are crucial. So I watched a lot of discourse happen back and forth on social media, and you see people tell people what issues should be important to them. And I think that's where politics, where we need a maturity in leadership and engagement, where we can have conversations that disagree and still be able to build a consensus and understand that, be mature enough to lose a battle in terms of my candidate, the candidate that I believed in this time lost, but that doesn't mean that you're my enemy because you were on the other side of that race. Now, some people do, is no matter what their age is. I've seen my elders do it. I'm sure I've done it at times, and I'm sure younger people will do it. So I'm not doing a should, but the more we can build consensus among the things that join us, rather than spend our time that divide us. What we didn't really get into is dive into the numbers of these different precincts. But there's a larger turnout in places who are more receptive to the law and order messaging, come out in larger numbers often than those that are the victims of law and order messaging and over policing. And so if we need to have more conversations before election day around that, then that's what I hope people start to fill in, and they do that with or without the elected officials. It'd be nice if the elected officials would lead. That's what they're elected to do. But again, I can't tell you what it should. The management has to manage their elected officials. They have power blocks. Power blocks influence elected officials all day. If they're ignoring you, that's because a more powerful group is telling them to pay attention to something else.
And now let's start to have this conversation while I look in the background, because I think
we're doing good on time, and this is where we overdo it.
We said about 1:15. All right, if you give me till 9:30, because I think that's enough time to really end it and put. I'm going to get this poll together.
And there's some, I don't know how the comments are. I really like to get to the comments too.
All right,
but
we can definitely do that. I'm putting a poll up as well. Champion, Hayden, and then Rollins. I want to ask folks. I'm not asking them to tell us who they.
I mean, I already know. We could do the numbers. Those of us that are on the inside already know who won. The numbers you can present tonight, you can forecast. You can forecast based on what we've shared who probably will win. I'll put it like that.
And so, Carlos, can you explain?
And it's in the science. That's the science we look at. Those markers tell you. You've never seen, not saying it's impossible, but you've never seen a Suffolk County District Attorney win with $12,000 raised over that time period with that many donors. Now, you've never seen a district attorney with that kind of name recognition either, whether good or bad, whether famous or infamous, however you want to paint it. And you've never had a reformer either. So that plays, but
I want to get the document Ward Plus maps. That's the maps, and then this is the one. The voter. Let me download it. This is the voter.
There's about 80,000 votes that are going to be at play. Maybe 90,000. So who can get 30,000 votes? Let's say that's the magic number. 30,001.
Remind me of Michael Kennedy.
Champions only got 5,000 the first time. We throw another 5,000 at her with cops and their immediate family member of 3. That puts her at 10,000. She's still 20,000 short of 30,000. Now that 30,000 is still hanging out there. Does Rachel clean up that 1,000? She need to get. Kevin would need to hold on to 7 out of 10 of his voters. Did he lose more than 3? Rachel would need like 85% of her voters. She can't to get back to 30. She almost needs everybody back to get to 30,000. Can she get there on $12,000? I don't know.
Let me bring this up real quick. And folks, I'm going to tell you now, this is a very large document, so you might have to bear with me and Carlos guiding me through what slide to get to. I need to get some commercials, Carlos, because we
almost killed myself.
We both could. Don't say that. We both could use a break. So this is the voter turnout for 2018.
I had to hit the emergency button. I'm home alone too.
Carlos, don't say that. Let me remove the poll. Hi. All right. So this is, and I might need to go back and forth. I have the map.
You can go to page 2. We'll break it down. So yeah.
So you want the map first?
No, we can go right to the page 2, and we'll just kind of talk about what these are. So
the numbers, page 2.
That's either or. Keep going to the first map. I'm sorry, the first map. I should have been more clear. So we looked at unique wards and precincts. This is a little nerdy, I guess we're closing out with. These are some of the stronger voting places in the city of Boston, and they're also some of the most racially segregated neighborhoods in Boston, which then makes some of the issues as well very segregated as well. So just for people's reference, to give a little bit of politics 102 level, Ward 2 is Charlestown, and we highlighted the highest turnout precinct. And in the bottom right, it'll say a Ward 2 comparison. It'll let you know that in 2018, when Rachel Rollins won, there were 13,785 registered voters in the ward. I'm sorry. There are more registered now that turned out and cast a ballot in the primary in 2018. There were 3,100 roughly, and in 2022, less people turned out. But just to give you an idea, that's how many people in that ward. Not all wards are created equal, but people from Boston understand the neighborhood layout. This is Charlestown. You know who lives there. Yep. Whether you live there or you don't live there. But they vote. And those are the numbers. That's how, just the 13 is just to let you know how many votes just live in that ward that are registered, that can turn out at any time.
And they only have they only have about 10,000, about 1,000 inactive voters, total registered at about 15,000. They have, if I read this column, the active share column, is that their voter turnout percentage? On a different document, I'm looking on another screen.
It might be, I think, in another slide. But I mean, so this is not their turnout percentage is not huge, not necessarily. But just it gave you Charlestown. Now, when you compare it to South Boston and Ward 16 and Dorchester and West Roxbury wards, then you'll see numbers start to really jump up in terms of population, who lives there, and how they cast their ballot. So this is Ward 12. This is what we call the heart of the city. Roxbury, North Dorchester. North Dorchester is code for where the Black people and brown people live. For those of you that might be transplants to Boston, but still voting in these elections. This will be the ghetto part of Dorchester, would be another way to put it.
You're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble.
When I say ghetto, I don't mean it. I mean, this is where redlining, where the life expectancy, where the equity issues that we talk about are important. This is where they've lived historically. The ghetto. Rome had a ghetto. Boston has a ghetto. This is part of it in Roxbury. Public housing, poverty, etc. Still, 12,000 voters, almost the same DA turnout numbers in 2018. So they're matching the energy of a Charlestown. Two, polarized racial communities, but similar turnout in terms of ward. And even this number drops in 2022. People stayed home. Why? Because maybe Rachel's not there, but Ricardo's there. So, maybe because Evandro's not there, you don't have 5 candidates mailing to you. You only have 2 mailing to you. It depends.
And this is all, you know, when you mention Ricardo, I wonder how much of that, you know, noise that went on.
Royal, respect. I'm calling people by their first name. Like I know them.
Yeah. Council Arroyo. You know, I wonder how much of the noise to, you know, influence maybe that number or whatever. 14 is a little bit of Dorchester. No.
Grove Hall moving up through Grove Hall. So just following Roxbury, if that was Roxbury Warren to Blue Hill, keep Warren and Blue Hill and keep going up Grove Hall. Let's go out to Franklin Park to the right, to the top side of it. And I believe that's Washington Street. What's that border road? Columbia Road, and a little bit of that on the left, right? So you're still coming up Grove Hall through Dorchester. People that vote here, Geneva Ave. Yeah, not Columbia Road. Geneva Ave goes all the way out. Basin Street, Quincy Street.
There were significant numbers. I just wanted to acknowledge real quick a couple of comments because these folks are in the same political nerd space we are. Stephanie said when we were talking about spending money, paid advertisement, Shagun raises a good point. There was a wave of women, black women in 18. Nika, Liz, Rachel, Ayana, and Kat. He just raised up Capoano. There's significance, and Bobby Constantino, significant in the 2018 race, and talked about the up ballot, kind of similar to what we were just saying, you know, as well. So I think that may have been.
Now I like to get the political nerds out here late at night. All the so
first of all, I'm honored.
Those are all great. You got a star-studded guest this evening, but all those play. So you see that number drop off at 2022. Does it drop off even more? And the lower the turnout, historically, I don't want to shatter people's dreams. Historically, the lower turnout favors the incumbent.
It does.
When you have a lot of energy, change happens. You know what I mean? When you have a lot of energy, like in 2018, that's another good point. People, maybe that's the first or second election after COVID.
That may have
2021, and then again,
yeah. And Stephanie said that don't forget Greg Hennon had pulled out. He pulled out people too. He did.
You have 5 candidates, right? You have 5 candidates, right?
But he did have some people in our
and Shannon, what's her name? McAuliffe. Shannon.
Yes. Yep. Wow.
Raised a lot of money. Yeah.
8 years. Wow. 8 years is a lot.
8 years. So all those things factor into how many people show up in that universe that we first talked about.
Yep.
And now if depending on how you spent that money or how those volunteers move, if they got a piece of mail and they might be like, oh wait, I heard that lady's name before. Oh, I saw that man speak before. Oh, my neighborhood, every time I go down this main street,
I see a sign.
I see all their signs in my neighborhood. I want my neighbors to like me. I put up a sign like that too. Or my neighbor asked me, or I always count on my neighbor and ask my neighbor who has their sign up. That's who I vote for. Like how you talked about the influence in the beginning. All these things play as voter blocks. So I'm a mess with my man Shagun again. Signs don't vote, but believe me, if I'm one of the ward bosses in Ward 13, Precinct 1, which I was for many years, when I put up a sign, the neighborhood pays attention to the 4 signs. And in 2018, I have up Liz's sign, I have up Rachel Rollins' sign in the yard, I have up AP sign, just the same names, right? Those are the signs that are in my lawn. And I know I'm impacting 50, 55 votes just of people that I talk to, never mind who drives by. I know I live there.
I'm trying to find there's one other thing I want to look at, Carlos, before we go. This is it.
And that damn sign costs some money.
That sign, dude, you told us earlier.
Unless you Doug Bennett.
Oh, wait.
And then you still got to get
stop.
This is how we get lost. This is how we
get ready to stop messing around.
This is how the bullshit starts.
We ain't seen a green painted sign.
Hey, don't say it too many times. It's like Beetlejuice. I said it once. If you say his name too much,
he didn't run for DA.
You know he'll be passing out stickers on September 1st. Let's just chill.
All right, Carlos, there's one other document that we got to look at real quick before we go. And this is the nerd side of me, but I think people need to see this. And as I'm opening it, I'm going to share some concern I have. A lot
Oh, you're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
A lot
I'll
of what we talked about tonight, there are going to be a lot of disenfranchised voters, two sets of campaigns.
You mean emotionally sad, disappointed voters?
Emotionally sad, disappointed voters from two camps that will not ascend. We mentioned that low voter turnout typically favors an incumbent. We know that this is a not a presidential election. This is a primary. Let's also name that. Let's also be clear in naming. If people have not heard it and do not understand, if you're supporting one of the candidates for DA or first Suffolk, November is not an option for you. There is no Republican contender. So
right,
the final for the DA and the first Suffolk is September. So you need to get out and vote. The numbers, Carlos, the science, a lot of people that I've served with, know, and love that are in close vicinity of Ward 12 and Ward 14, the science doesn't look like it's favorable for that population's presumed candidate.
You're being so politically correct. This is almost like a morning show.
But
oh man,
my concern is, will these voters still stay engaged by the candidate, or will they stay engaged just in generally? And then how will the candidate, you said something earlier about an individual and being almost like personality driven versus the overall work. We can talk about the 80-20. You may have seen the clip from Curtis Rollins the other day about even if your candidate doesn't win. As I bring these numbers up, Carlos, to any population in any race, a ballot question, is the disappointment valid? And then what advice would you give them around being present with the disappointment, but then the importance of maybe using that energy to engage whoever won, and then other issues, and then keep being involved? That is one of the central
voter or a candidate.
The voter for right now. We can talk about the candidate a little bit because I've observed some candidates that haven't won. I don't know them anymore. And so let's talk about the voter right now. What advice would you give them as I bring up these primary numbers?
I would probably quote a line from Denzel Washington, and it's make a decision. You're gonna have to make a decision whether you take the L with humility and grace and understand that it's not necessarily a reflection of you or even the candidate. Like we just named a lot of different things that go into making a successful race. So you can decide that that's too much for you and you don't like the emotional ups and downs with it of hinging your hopes and your, because some of the stuff is deeply emotional and deeply personal for people, especially around this DA's race, especially people, wrongfully convicted in it and wanting to be exonerated or at least be seen. And so I think when we talk about voting blocks and we talk about empowering our community, these are the reasons why we talk about it. So that it's not hinging on one person, it's hinging on the policy, right? So let's say if I'm in a leadership role on the ground in Boston, which I'm not, but I encourage and speak to those that are, I would say, okay, if my candidate, this is where you want me to go, I'm going to go. I was trying not to be, this is our editorial moment. This is very nonpartisan. I'm not.
Hold on for 1 second. I need you to return my text and my phone call, sir. Go ahead, Carlos. I'm sorry.
So I have to decide. Let's say I'm for the reformer, right? Let's say Rachel Rollins as DA with her integrity review board. It won over the hearts and minds of many that were afflicted by that and their families and the communities that love them and they live in. Myself included. I speak to somebody behind the wall who I saw their energy change when Rachel ascended, it was like, damn, he asked me, what do you think about the next guy? And I was like, I don't really know if he's going to continue this policy. But if you do want the policy continued and your reformer candidate doesn't win, then you still should figure out how to continue to grow your block of voters so that you can put the expectation on him and future candidates in the next 4 years is going to be another race. So rather than waiting for that candidate to emerge, we just gave you a really simple breakdown that you could, if you find 1,649 people that are willing to put up $150, and we can play with that number, right? And so for candidates, I would charge for this advice. For people that are on the ground trying to lead for an issue, sliding scale. I would talk to, you mentioned the homie Joey Bennett. I haven't met the man, but if you were to make the introduction like that, I'm willing to have that kind of conversation where if you have a block of people, 1,600 people that can put up $149, you can create a candidate that is ready to carry that mantle, or you can that might have been what was missed in this race, right? We might not have had somebody to say the reformer candidate needed 1,649 people to get $149, and we'd be able to recreate this message. So they need to create that infrastructure within themselves and within their community, maybe not to that level, but close.
Carlos, there is, or can you speak to a response? Often either through ascension, through activity, or self-assertion, there are people in spaces that are identified or present themselves as community leaders, civic leaders, and engagement, along with candidates and elected officials.
Okay.
What?
You said self-identify? Huh? You said they self-identify as.
There are some that ascend through the work. There are some that self-identify and present.
Ascend to what? Ascend. See what I mean? Like, this is where because we say leaders, and leaders have followers. Leaders have plans, and leaders execute plans, and the plans can then have results, and then you can measure the results.
Measurable, and there's follow-up and consistency and honesty and transparency.
Right.
That is the thing.
Right. That's different than self-appointing. That's different than branding. That's different than giving yourself a name or a title of an ambassadorship or statesman. You know what I mean? It's different. It's different. So again, it comes with a political maturity about leadership. When we say leadership, what are we leading? Are you leading fundraising for a candidate? Are you leading a voting block in Ward 12? Are you leading a Democratic committee in Ward 14? Are you part of a neighborhood association in Ward 18? Are you starting your own neighborhood association in Ward 18? Are you the chair of the board of that neighborhood association? Are you the vice chair? Are you the chair of the ad hoc committee on community engagement, and you're in charge of printing the 100 flyers and going door to door in your precinct once a month? That's leadership.
Where is that the work versus the time? There's a lot of
people on social media.
Oh, and listen, hi. This is Job with Jimmy, but
media. But I think you could convert, and I would battle test you. How many people can you convert into voters on September 1st? How many people can you vote? Now you might be a nonprofit entity, and you might not want to. So what I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you move money into a cause or an organization, shout out One Love. We got a gala. We got to big up Sports Academy. But if you can direct, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a issue-based campaign, whether it's a candidate, if you can move money, if you can move people, if you can influence the will of something, that is what power is. Everything else, including this show and what we're doing, is just talking.
Now, let me answer your question. I'm not endorsing in either one of these two races that we talked about. But trust and believe.
But are you voting?
Yes, I'm voting.
Okay,
I'm absolutely voting. Yeah. I almost cussed you. I'm a super voter. There's only one election that I missed, and you can appreciate this. The year that Martha Coakley ran, I was with the Green Machine. The
Man.
green machine.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like Bill Stein, but then I was like, yeah, no, that's Menino.
No. Menino. And
Yeah.
we went to the very last minute, and I missed the poll by about 5
Yeah,
minutes.
it happens, but that doesn't knock you off a Super Bowl. You have to usually miss 2 out of 4, anything under 50% or less in primaries. So
I vote every year, every election. I don't play that.
But this time we're only checking for people that voted in primaries. Most likely, if I'm checking for you this time around to get you had to vote in primaries. Otherwise, I'm not really checking for you.
Let's go there. And this is going to be page 8. Carlos, this is the thing based on what we were just talking about voter disenfranchisement.
Look at we at 140 right now. We were supposed to be off 20 minutes. Are people still engaged in the conversation?
I just need Christopher Worrell.
You don't even got an opponent. And we didn't mention Juwan Skeens in the first state Senate race.
And we did say that we do have a black man that is running in that race in the first Suffolk district as well.
Due to money, not very viable visibility wise, and not going to be able to convert it.
All right.
And that's why people left out of that. But
we're not going to talk viability because a lot of people believe that just like we talked about self-proclaimed leaders, we got a lot of self-proclaimed. I'm going to bring up the document from
consultants, so I can't even. Don't get me started. The people I see show up as consultants on their OCPF reports, like, oh, that's who you wanted to pay to give you.
First of all, there's some candidates that I told it. There is none like you, Carlos.
I'm off here, so I swore I wasn't going to go over 120 with you today. God damn.
I'm sorry.
What kind of political junkies are up watching Java with Jimmy at 9:40 on Thursday? Y'all need to cut it out. You should be wearing a moisturization mat. Let me not even mention moisturization on your show because now I go off the rails. Let me not get into the deal.
Messaging. This slide hurts me, bro. Ward 20, I can't bring up both at the same time. Ward 20
is West Roxbury, Rosendale.
And they had a vote in 2020.
The only place that voted more in 2022 in this race than in 2018. The only place. Everybody got a reformer in 2018, and the excitement was big. And then Councilor Arroyo said, I'm going to keep this going. And those same wards that had big turnouts, 18, 17, 16, 15, those right down Blue Hill Avenue from Hyde Park all the way down to Roxbury, they put their feet up, including, but so did Charlestown and South Boston. Everybody, to a certain degree, put their feet up.
Now we got
other things we mentioned.
What was 22? 22 was it was again another state primary.
Yeah, but without the AP and cap, without all the women running for state legislature, the more campaigns, the more glossy flyers you get in the mail, the more likely you are to remember to vote on September 1st.
Let me 15. Did you say where that was? Because that is
15 is Dorchester. It runs right up Bowdoin Street. 15-1, part of the Cape Verdean community, very diverse. There's still some white Irish in there, but it's Bowdoin, Geneva, Fields Corner.
Was 22 the new district or no? Yes.
22 would have a new district.
This is the second.
It's still very close to it. You probably lost a little bit from the changes. Just in an rough overview, lost more of Mattapan out of the first Suffolk and went downtown. It became a whiter district. You lost some of the black. So the middle stayed the same. You kept the same Dorchester mix.
This is just, I think Carlos.
Now that last one, if you go back, that's a big number too. Like this is 2022. When you see the margins of how many. So you say in Hyde Park, I'm sorry, in West Roxbury, Rosendale, that Ward 20 number, Hayden beat Arroyo by 2,300. Like that's pardon the term, that's ass kicking in that ward anyway, right? And that gives you a cushion. So if West Roxbury comes out and throws an extra 2,300 votes at their candidate, and they're opposed, you have a different candidate than West Roxbury, you better be able to put up 2,320 votes just to get your candidate to even. And look how many wards it took for Councilor Arroyo to get back to 2,320. and that's including Ward 12. And if you know what I mean, he only had a
He got the
240 lead.
This 44 and 36 is just like, wow.
So just so people know, Ward 20, West Roxbury, very white Irish, probably the higher incomes in the city of Boston besides downtown. Ward 16, 1302. That is what we call in the deposit area of Dorchester. High voter turnout, Florian Hall.
A lot of migration from South Boston.
South Boston, a lot of same thing over to Quincy. A lot of white Irish cops been there for generations. Ward 15, I told you, it's a little bit of that Dorchester, but also coming into more immigrant neighborhoods where there might be less registered voters, but maybe not. But voter turnout is a lot lower, a lot different. Ward 14, Grove Hall. Ward 12, Roxbury. Ward 6, South Boston. Again, that lead for the candidate jumps up in big numbers. And Ward 2, Charlestown. So that's just showing you how different when those neighborhoods that are usually racially opposed, for lack of a better term, they also have a different candidate for whatever reason.
The only one that was different was now, Carlos, you'll appreciate this. In the mayoral election, generally folks don't rock with Michelle, but South Boston wards and precincts voted for the mayor for Michelle. But
okay. So now you got me engaged. Now the political nerd. You're right, and I'm speculating here, but so again, I keep talking about political maturity. South Boston is a very politically mature ward. They have been in politics. They were locked out of politics by the WASPs here before, right?
And I don't
the reason why they call it a paddy wagon, right? Because of wards like that. So they're astute enough to know you could not like somebody, but that doesn't mean they're not going to win. And you still got to do business with them about policy and money. And so being politically astute, the same way we can look at these numbers and realize that the reformer might not win this time. We could look at Josh Kraft's numbers way ahead of time and say, not going to happen. And that's why his team looked at the numbers after the preliminary and said, hey, let's not spend no more money. We got a lot of dough, but there's not I'm speaking like Kanan from getting late. You got a lot of dough, but there's not enough dough you can spend to convert it into votes.
There was no there's
science behind it. There's a pathway to victory. It's through block captains, and it's through ward captains, and it's through little old ladies, and it's through developers, and it's all tied together. And that money flows and volunteers flow, and how the candidate talks to people in the morning. If they lift up your spirit and make you feel good, then they come out for you and volunteer 4 hours and they bring a friend. If the energy ain't really there, then they just sit at home and say, well, good luck to you. I hope you win, but I don't give you my time and my talent because I know you're not going to win.
Carlos, I want to be sensitive to time because I appreciate you. I can
do it. I just look crazy. That's all.
I don't want tea. She's
not even here. She's in North Africa somewhere, living her best life.
Oh, shit. No, sorry, Ma. So I wanted to highlight one and celebrate. This is our sister, and Dina is in here. And I think this is important because this is an example that if you don't care to vote for any of the candidates in any election,
it's an endorsement.
You must show up and you must support. Dina Marshall Tarver said, Stephanie Everett, hope you've been well. I write your name in when I don't want to vote for a candidate that has no opponent. Laugh out loud. I don't know why, but I always do. So let's just celebrate that. And then Stephanie said, you don't have to write me in anymore. I was on the 24 and I'll be there getting 9-1.
There you go. She on the ballot. She on the ballot. And tuned in.
And Bobby made a couple of comments as well. And this is, I'll go to Bobby.
Before you go to that, let me just talk about the blanks.
Hold on. Let me get to that.
You can write those names in and send a strong message. Let's say you don't like any of these three. You were speaking to those people who are self-proclaimed leaders or get the turnout to just have blanks. It still counts as turnout.
And it sends a message because
it might not change it for this election, but it tells me if for instance, let's say that people take this so personally. Let's say that this is a real possibility. Let's say that the third place finisher, there's as many blanks as there are votes for that candidate. That tells that person, and here we go. In Winthrop, thank God you said that, so people didn't think I'm making it up. In Winthrop, more people said I don't like none of y'all than people said I like Linda Champion. You see what I'm saying? If you look at the 2018 and you go down to Winthrop, you go Rollins, Henning, Carvalho, McCullough, Champion, others. Those are the write-ins. If you wrote in Stephanie Everett, her name, she would have got a 1. The blanks are 130 in Winthrop. That number beats Linda. That number beats her in Revere. That number beats her in Chelsea. She's losing the blanks.
And there's going to so someone asked me, Shagun said we got till 10 o'clock and then we're
we need boundaries. We need boundaries.
Political junkie like him is going to give us a curfew. Here's my thing. I believe that the blanks on the district attorney are going to be a lot. I think in Chelsea, just the fact of what we named, we got 3 black people running. I seen a comment on social media the other day, and I went and looked at the person's, profile, came across a little, not supportive of people with melanin. I don't like any of the candidates in this race. That was one, what do you call it? Dog whistle? That was one of those low-key dog whistles. I say that to say that in Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop, I think there's probably going to be a lot of blanks.
I agree with you, but you quoted on your show the other day that a friend of ours had a similar statement that this campaign don't whet his appetite, so he might blank too, and he's from Roxbury.
And I said it came up live. I said it when I seen it on the show live. For Eric Estevez to do that as someone who's a super voter, a former candidate, and ran. That was it, and as someone who rallied behind and at the inauguration celebration was a lead on the planning to that was significant for me. So here's a perfect example of the influence. But
right?
I'm a super voter. I'm engaged. I called Eric after that and said, was like, yo, that had you talk about influence of endorsements and people, that had an influence on me. You know what I mean? And so it probably a few people.
What if you are a super voter? Let's say black man super voter in one of those wards we named, and you're a fan of Rachel Rollins, but not really. Or let's say you don't know if she can win this time. You don't like how Kevin Hayden handled Councilor Royal and maybe or how he hasn't released the body cam, and you're never going to support Linda Champion because you feel like she's too chummy with police, and let's just say you're in that vortex. You're a blank voter. You could easily be a super voter and show up and vote blank, whether you're from Ward 2 in Charlestown or whether you're from Ward 12 in Roxbury.
Both.
What matters is right. So that motion, that's the only place there's some equity, is where it comes down to one vote in these type of races. Whatever your emotions, however that converts, whatever happens in Charlestown, you could do it in Roxbury too. It's just who's going to get their votes for their candidate to turn out.
My last question, as Shagun said, we got till 10. We've been asked to make predictions.
Make predictions?
We've been asked to make predictions.
Hayden Rollins champion. Collins over Gale. There you go. Anybody want to make any betting action? I could use some side money. And I'm not saying that's I'm not voting in either one. I haven't donated in either one. It's an ethics-free.
This is science, data.
But I put money on it. Based on what we showed tonight, I would put money on it. Now I think that Rachel could still pull out an upset based on name recognition. I don't think she will, but I think she can. I don't know the inner workings without knowing how many people are volunteering and eating pizza and knocking doors and then bringing that information back. You have no real way to understand it unless you're that close to the campaign. But again, we know how much it takes to run that campaign. And again, you feel and see some of that in the streets. You see people out wearing t-shirts and you see pictures online of people with clipboards. You ain't seen no clipboards in nobody's hands in these pictures.
No
You
clip
ain't seen no lit drops.
balls, no lit drops,
You got neighbors that got flyers on their porches, on their doors. You remember back in the day, you come out and wake up in the morning and there's a flyer on everybody's car. Yeah, or on their steps. You ain't seen that.
No door hangers, no buttons, no, and this is across the board. So
yeah, exactly.
Carlos, I think this has been one of our most comprehensive shows. We have now raised the bar. Now we're going to always have to come with slides and
the bar is going to get this done in an hour 20. That's the bar.
Yeah, unless we do it more often, because there's so much to unpack in the engagement. These last few comments. Bobby said,
I'll stay for comments.
Bobby said, careful, don't forget the straw poll in 2018 that did in Bernstein. Who was that?
Listen,
who did in Bernstein?
Bernstein be taking polls and people get mad at Bernstein when he predicts winning. I think he predicted Capuano over
Dave? Is he talking about Dave?
Yeah, David Bernstein from Boston Magazine.
Don't
even start about Boston Magazine because you're going to open up a whole other can of worms with y'all list of influencers or whatnot. I'm just saying that's my prediction. I could be wrong, Bobby. I put some money up, man. Wait, I
want to go back to the list. No, sir.
Put some money up if you think it's going to shake out differently. Again, that's not who I prefer. That's not who I think is the best for reforming those office. Don't you blank register of probate, says the register of probate. A very important office for those that are considering wills and property and home ownership as families change and people pass on. Those things go through register of probate. Custody issues, family issues like that. If you don't have your will and estate and all that work done, and even if you do, you're still going to go through that office. So hopefully we'll start to get energy and politically aware of all these offices and how they impact our life and how the people that are, whether they're an administrator and are responsible for managing how the caseloads go, or whether they're a policymaker and a budget getter, how the whole system works so that people can engage not only in electoral politics of election season, but the day-to-day lobbying, the relationship building, knowing what to ask for, building a real metrics of how you're judging candidates, not only in the 11th and 12th hour as you're approaching the polls, but in advance when they're asking you to sign their nomination papers. Do you already know something about them? Did they come from your neighborhood? Do you know their work already from what they've been doing from being a self-appointed or anointed leader? Don't be grinning at the comments and not sharing.
I'm not because this is our brother, so we know how he is. He's sitting there. What y'all need to be doing is just.
Well, this is kind of what we're doing. I mean, the last 30 has been Q&A, so I think we've been.
Thank you, Shagun. And then Jessica said that the Boston Magazine list just sends people into a spot.
Yeah, it really, a lot of the same thing with the endorsements. Like we still have a very emotional response, and I'm not telling people again what they should or shouldn't do, but if that emotion again doesn't turn into an action that can be measured and evaluated as a change agent, then it's just a feeling, and we all got feelings. You just tear them up. You could use them as a dust.
I knew Carlos was like, wait, but you know how much money we spend?
Yeah, I used to tell cats on the block, you can use it to break up on. Like, don't throw it out. Put it on your refrigerator. Reuse it. Break up on it. That's why I made it glossy. You know what I mean? Sometimes I make one side not glossy and leave a blank space. So if you want to get a phone number, you can write a phone number in there. Something to make you keep it. We had to pay for those mailers.
I try not to laugh. Listen, I really want to, and folks are naming, they got mailers in Stephanie's district.
Big money. and in her ward and precinct. Stephanie living, you in 16, Stephanie? I bet you Stephanie in 16.
Or 50, no, because I used to be in Stephanie's.
She lived over there by the mayor, the former mayor.
And Dina said, I'd rather a door knocker. Ain't nobody knocked on my door in.
No, yeah. I mean, a door knocker.
Years. All right, Carlos, it's 9:58. Brother, from tonight, from other shows, from back in, what year was that? 2013. We were sitting in somebody's living room, and I was thinking about running for office.
With Stephanie, I think Stephanie was there for that too, wasn't she?
Stephanie was in that conversation. Other people that will not be named. And and Carlos was so frustrated with me. I remember you was like, Jesus Lord, da 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 da. And from that day forward, you have poured into. We've debated. I've learned a lot from you. You said to me one day, you was like, and I learned a little bit from you too.
Listen, I'll tell you anything to keep you from running for office. No, but the truth of it is, I do that with many people because everybody thinks that running for office is the cure. It's like, if I just get to that seat, I'm gonna do it better than they did it. They just didn't do it right. I used to think like that too. That's not the answer. So, but I get you. I'm glad you got your lane. I think this is a great lane. It's informative. It allows you to touch the information. It's in politics, and there's so many different roles in politics for people to play. It's nice that everybody thinks they want the bright light on them until that bright light's on.
Whether candidate, public figure, radio host, or whatever. So, Carlos, we can keep going. Jessica just said one last thing. If Carlos ain't, what did she say? Let me tell you, she started trouble the other day. Let me tell you, if Carlos ain't coming, neither am I. You're welcome.
I appreciate it so much.
All right. I appreciate you, man. I'm going to go pay some bills. We debrief tonight or tomorrow. You home alone. We're going to debrief tonight.
We ain't started the Patreon yet, so I can't say. So let's just wrap it up. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I hope this has been informative for those that don't know me and want to talk about whether running for office or training for candidates or different roles. Please feel free. You can contact me. My name is Carlos Henriquez. My business phone number is 617-606-1556. Or you can email me at carlos@ch2group.com. That's the letter C, the letter H, the number 2, the word group.com. Love to talk to you about it. I probably will try to talk you out of it before I try to talk you into it.
Hi, Milton. Sorry. I've been trying to talk people.
I'm glad you said it. That's one of the, one of the brothers I want to talk to. I sent a few messages at him. I'm trying to, I think I sent you, Adam. I think I sent Jamal to deliver a message. You know what I mean? I know we got friends in common, so I'm trying to get to him. But
let me tell you all, as much as you have learned from Carlos tonight, and just so he won't make him turn pink. If you want to win, if you want to go through an evaluation to see if you're even ready to run, you need to wait, you need to do something. Y'all need to hit this man up because it just makes sense.
But not at that email. You need a 2 after the CH2, the number 2.
How long you let me have this up here, brother? And not
they'll be pinging back, bouncing back. So yeah, an evaluation. That's one of the first things we do is offer an evaluation if you can be what we call feasible, if you want to run a good campaign, a viable campaign, and what that campaign may or may not look like. Because I don't want to gas people and send them into doom and ruin. Like it takes a lot to run a campaign. It's 8 months. You have to ask people for a lot of money. You saw those amounts. You think 1,600 people, you ask them for money. That's a lot of phone calls. That's a lot of please, please, please. Can you please, please, please? And then people are turning around and tearing up your mailers. It's a lot. It's a lot. So,
all right, Carlos, get off of here. I'm gonna go pay some bills.
All right. Yes, sir.
And I appreciate you, man. I'll follow up.
Yes, sir. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, man. Folks, as we always do, bringing you the information, civic engagement, to have this discussion. This race is very different. And so I thought it was important that we took a 50,000 foot view, brought it down to about a 5,000 foot view. My major thing to you is vote. Vote. Even he's back. Oh, you coming back?
I thought you had been off by now. I was gonna stay in the side lobby
and debrief.
Got me back on the air. I done left. What if I had some contraband in my hand or something? Man, cut the goddamn feed, man.
I love that dude, y'all. Vote, as Mama Java said, vote. Bobby, it's an honor to have you in here, sir. I noticed there was reference made to your innovation work. And there's a whole video on that on YouTube from our interview. So make sure that gets out there to the people. More people need to hold on. Is it? Oh, I need to get off of here. All right, I'm ending the show. And so everyone, please, family, friends, please take note of this. If you don't hear from me, and don't take it personal. We're on break. Actually, starting like soon as I hit end, and you all will not see me again on air until Election Day on Tuesday, September 1st. Death, sickness is the only reason to reach out to me. That is it. I am on a strict do not disturb. Nope. And I'm going to say death and sickness. That's the only reason to please reach out to me. That's it. All right. So I'm getting off of here, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday, September 1st, 2026. And we'll be coming with some new things for you all. All right. Peace, everybody.